to be honest, I'm such a fan of the sting that we have at the start of the show. Like, it's incredible. Like the Anyway, guys, welcome back to Market Madness, the podcast from GiveMeSport, where every day is like deadline day, with myself, Joel Beya, and the GiveMeSport senior football correspondent, Mr. Ben Jacobs. Now, we're currently live on Facebook, YouTube, X, and if you're listening back in the future, yes, you can do that, then please make sure you're following us on @GiveMeSport so you can see when the live shows are taking place and get up to speed with all the news as it happens, because it's so interesting. Of course, it's transfer time and everyone's talking about who's getting what, who's getting who. So coming up today, it feels like everyone wants a striker. We'll be talking about the great striker merry-go-round. Melissa Reddy will be joining us to look ahead of Liverpool season. I don't want to say that they won the league, but it's looking dangerous at the moment. We've also got MLS expert Tom Bogert, who is going to come on the show to discuss the ins and outs over in the USA and to answer your questions. For more info on any of the stories discussed today, head over to GiveMeSport's website and make sure you're following across socials where you can get all your questions answered, or you can look at things, read whatever you want. There's so many people with articles, Ben, Fabrizio. It's just crazy over there. So please make sure you're following and check out the website as well. So right, let's get into it. This is Market Madness from GiveMeSport. Oh my gosh, I'm joined with the one and only GiveMeSport senior football correspondent, the man in the know, the one and only Mr. Ben Jacobs. Ben, how are you? What's going on, man? Where are you?
Good afternoon. I hear you're in the Algarve, so I'm very jealous.
I am. I'm on holiday, nothing but palm trees, 31 degrees.
I can see that sun coming through.
Yeah, it's not all inclusive though, I have to say. Half board. I don't know how I ended up with a half board when you got kids.
Are you done yet doing this?
Well, do you know what it is?
Are you done yet doing this?
No. I'm doing this all summer. I've just started. But yeah, going back to my half board, they're charging us for every single drink you have. And when you got kids that go, I'm thirsty, it's like, it is a lot. You might see them walk in when the show's happening at one point. But anyway.
I don't know if that's an impression you're allowed to do. Your other half will not like that.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I'm out with my sister and my niece and my daughter. So the other half, she's at home preparing the wedding.
Okay, fine. So you can always say that was an impression of the niece rather than the daughter.
Both. I really don't mind at this point. But anyway, we've had some amazing times in football this week. Champions and all, England, Lionesses. Can you talk us a little bit about that, Ben? How was the game for yourself to watch?
Just an incredible achievement, because they were in adversity throughout the entire tournament. I mean, I think about that Sweden game where they were 2-0 down. They were minutes away from being knocked out by Italy. They were 1-0 down to Spain in the final. And then to win it on penalties. And Sarina Wiegman's record as a manager in major finals is just insane. And then what I loved about it was this kind of redemption arc for Chloe Kelly over the last 12, 18 months, where she'd fallen out of favour at Man City, got her move to Arsenal, scored the winning penalty. She said, I don't miss 2 penalties in a row. She was proven correct. I don't know actually whether the missed penalty counts as a missed penalty because it was saved, but she followed up with the rebound. And then what I love is just the scenes afterwards. And when you look at the volume of people celebrating when they paraded that trophy, fantastic to see. And it's great that we're now in a situation, because it's back-to-back Euros where there's this opportunity, there's this equality, there's this respect, and long may it continue. Fantastic achievement by the Lionesses, and so many stories that led to it. And I don't think I've ever watched a major tournament, men or women, where I've seen in a knockout phase so little of a team leading. And that's what I mean about adversity. I believe statistically, they were only ahead in the knockout stage for about 2 minutes of open play football. And I'm not so sure we've ever seen an eventual champion that's been so behind, so on the brink. And they had all the adversity before as well. Mary Earps, for example, deciding that she was going to retire from international football. Hannah Hampton made 2 incredible saves in the penalty shootout. So congratulations to the Lionesses. And as I say, long may their success continue.
Yeah, no, it was incredible stuff. I think we need to talk a little bit about Wiegman, an incredible manager. Please talk us through her tactics and what you learned from her this tournament.
Well, like I say, we saw with Sarina Wiegman not compromising on her principles, excellent use of substitutes as well, who constantly had an impact in games, and that ability to make up for some of the big and senior players that were not part of this tournament. And she is just a big tournament manager. It's as simple as that, not just with England, but with the Netherlands as well. She doesn't lose major finals. It's as simple as that. And she was coming under some criticism, particularly when England were heading into that game against the Netherlands because they'd lost to France in the group stage. It looked like maybe the tactics would prove too rigid, and had they lost to the Netherlands, they'd have been out of the tournament altogether. Another example of England having to win a big game, and that match in the group stage against the Netherlands where they thrashed them should not be underestimated, because, as I say, England could have gone out the tournament entirely, but she ignored the noise. She used her substitutes very effectively. She was able to, I think, override a few hurdles along the way, Lauren James's fitness being one of them. And at the end of the day, get the best out of her players. And even though a lot of people before a ball was kicked said, there's something wrong here, there's a disharmony in the camp, there's players pulling out that don't want to play for England. Actually, she got the chemistry, she got the bond out of the group. So she deserves a huge amount of credit. And like I say, we should never be surprised that she's a winning manager in this capacity, because she did it at the last Euros, she did it at this Euros, and she did it with the Netherlands as well.
You know, I want to talk about the parade. I don't know if you had the chance to go or not, but I saw Burner Boy was there performing. It was really, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong place. But what's your thoughts about how they were welcomed back as winners?
Just insane. And I love the overhead shots on drone showing how busy and populated it was in terms of the turnout. And sometimes you kind of get the reaction actually in unexpected places. So after they won it, I went out with the dog about 15, 20 minutes after the trophy lift. And I'm looking around, and there's cars beeping, there's flags draped outside, there's kids running in and around Victoria Park wearing England shirts. And I love that when you suddenly start seeing a Lauren James, a Chloe Kelly, a Michelle Agerman on the back of shirts. And what a story, by the way, Michelle Agerman was too, because she was a young player of the tournament. And there's a side plot there in the transfer market, because she is Arsenal, your team, through and through. But after she announced herself particularly scoring the goal against Italy, Alexis Ohanian, the Reddit co-founder who's just invested in Chelsea, quote, tweeted a post about her just with the little eyes. So now there's this whole feeling, are Chelsea going to somehow enter the race this summer and try and sign her? But the parade was fantastic. It sort of sat on that intersect between sport and entertainment, as you say, with music stars, people like Burna Boy. But ultimately, it's just the outpouring, and it's the affinity I love between these players that are very approachable, are very genial. They show a lot about their personal lives. So the fans know them, they've interacted with them. And that's the brand of the women's game. If you come back to the WSL, that fans feel that they can wait around and have a conversation with these players. And the sort of paradox is, as the sport gets bigger, you have to put your sports stars in a bubble. But because the generation playing now have come through a period where they haven't always had equal opportunity and respect, the fans that have been there from the very start have lived the journey with this generation of Lionesses from 2022 to 2025. And as a consequence, they feel they know them as footballers and as characters as well. And that makes the moment even more special, because you're not just celebrating the achievement, you're often celebrating with people that you feel you know. And that's why I think it's such an inspirational story.
I have to say, I cannot wait to go back to the Arsenal. I don't want to say training about to the games and stuff, and just to see Leah Williamson, just to see everybody that has achieved so much. But yeah, good on the girls, not just the Arsenal girls. I think the girls across the board. It's an incredible story. But Ben, I have to move it on to the questions that we ask you at the start of the show. So you know what it's like. If you haven't seen, I always ask Ben a particular question, and that he comes back at the end of the show or throughout the show, somewhere or some point during the show, and he lets us know the answer to that question. Are you ready for today's question, Ben?
Hit me with it.
Okay, so the one question I want to know, which is a shock to me, by the way, until producer Finn put it in our script today, is Harry Kane on the move this summer?
Oh, wow. What a question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about asking that as an Arsenal fan?
Well, I was hoping you was going to give me a little bit of news, before the end. But look, the way I see it is, first of all, I'm shocked because I think things are going so well for him in Germany. But at the same time, we've seen a lot of like triggers and clauses be activated recently. At the start of the show, I thought, oh, maybe maybe it's Saudi. I don't know. But then I just stopped guessing because I thought that's not my job. That's for you to give us the proper information. I do think Harry Kane has a lot more to offer than a lot of strikers worldwide. And if he ever wanted to move to Arsenal, then I'll receive him with open arms, if I'm honest.
Ooh, wow. Controversial take. I'd love to think or hear what others feel about that if they're Arsenal fans, about Kane in an Arsenal shirt. I don't think he'd ever do it. I think he would rule out that move regardless of the Arsenal project and the money on offer. But you never say never. Sol Campbell obviously moved across North London.
I don't know why I'm doing this, but this is the project at the moment anyway.
Is that your like talk to the hand? If anyone says that Arsenal's not a good move, you're going to do the Gyökeres version of talk to the hand and put up the mask.
Honestly, I've been teaching the kids on holiday and everything. But if you want to hear the answer to that question, please make sure you stick around to the end of the show. I can't wait to hear. Plus, also, if you want to ask any questions to Ben or to our MLS expert, Tom Bogert, who will join us later on, then do make sure to leave a comment wherever you're watching the show. We welcome it. Okay, cool. So we're going to start doing striker chat at the moment. Now, you heard me mentioning striker merry-go-round earlier on. We've already seen Victor Gyökeres to Arsenal, Liam Delap and João Pedro to Chelsea. Ekitike moved to Liverpool. With rumours swirling around that Wissa, Šeško, Nicolas Jackson, Ollie Watkins, and of course, Alexander Isak could also be making moves. Ben, we're going to start with Isak. What's going on here? Why are so many strikers rumoured to move?
Yeah, I just think you have that domino effect, don't you, where there's several top, particularly English teams that either have needed or still need a striker. And then if clubs lose a big striker, they need a replacement and they've got budget. So you have this merry-go-round, as you rightly say. Situation with Alexander Isak is really simple at the moment. Liverpool haven't bid yet. One is, of course, anticipated. Newcastle are braced for that. But there is extreme, and I stress that word, extreme caution on the Liverpool side. They will not bid uninvited. They've already made an approach to say they're willing to break the British transfer record. So to enter this race, you sense it's not so much about Luis Diaz going to Bayern, which was confirmed this morning, and it's actually more about if Newcastle find a replacement, maybe replacements, plural, then you have a situation where there could be a window where the timing is right. And timing is everything for Liverpool. They want to bid with confidence. They don't want to bid blind. So suggestions in the last 24 hours that they've already bid, not correct as of now, but of course could change. Suggestions they've already pre-agreed terms with Isak, also not correct to my understanding. No contact yet with the Isak side. And the reason for that is because Liverpool, as with Florian Wirtz, are expert readers of the market. They know that terms with Isak will not be a problem. They don't need to agree the terms now. It's obvious the player's head has been turned. So this is a deal that's going to all be about timing. And Liverpool are basically distant admirers until the right time emerges. If they go now, it's probably the wrong time because Newcastle are focusing on strikers of their own. If Newcastle get a replacement, a window of opportunity may arise where they can actually do the deal at value. So sometimes in a transfer window, inaction is actually the best tactic because you wait until the point comes where you stand the best chance of success. And that's where we're at the moment with Isak. And then no doubt we'll come on to Newcastle, Šeško and Wissa, Ollie Watkins, Manchester United, but Šeško could be Manchester United as well. And I think, Joel, that's what makes this so fascinating, that now, unlike Arsenal, who had a clear run at Gyökeres, unlike perhaps Chelsea, who always knew that João Pedro and Liam Delap wanted them, we've now got this real head-to-head where it's unclear whether Šeško might pick Newcastle or Manchester United, where it's a little bit unclear whether Villa might cave and go from not for sale for Ollie Watkins to we'll sell him if we find a replacement. It's not entirely obvious yet whether Nicolas Jackson will or won't be sold. So there's a few more ifs now, whereas at the beginning of the window, it was obvious that Arsenal were going to pick between Šeško and Gyökeres. It was obvious that Chelsea were going to enter the race for Liam Delap. it was obvious that João Pedro was inviting an approach from Chelsea, knowing that if they bid, he'd pivot from Newcastle to Chelsea. Now the situation with some of these strikers is a little bit less clear, and there's only a month left of the window, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah, very interested indeed, especially with the Šeško deal to Manchester United. I mean, it also proves that it's just business as well, because I don't know, like he clearly wasn't Manchester United's first option, and that doesn't seem to bother Manchester United. End of the day, gone are the days where managers like Fergie, like, you either want to play with me or that's it, you don't go anywhere else, or they don't. I don't think they care as much anymore.
Well, I think when we talk about first choices, recruitment doesn't work like that. You have 4 or 5 deep targets, and you may, in theory, try for one first, and you might pivot to another name because you say, okay, we put that name lower down because we like that name as much, but that person is more expensive. So you pivot, or alternatively, you may find your number one choice, or rather the first that you approach, decides to join another club. It doesn't mean 2, 3, 4, and 5 are backup after backup after backup, because things have to align. You might have a dream target you can't get, so they're lower down on your list of priorities. Then the price may drop and you come back. I think to Liverpool and Gravenberch, who, after they missed out on Moises Caicedo, people were saying, now they're going for Gravenberch, now they're going for Endo. But actually, Gravenberch was a target before he even moved to Bayern Munich for Liverpool. So sometimes a long-standing target comes back to the radar. And that's the situation with Manchester United and Šeško. So just briefly on the Manchester United side, and by the way, I've got a bit of breaking news in a moment for you on another striker. But on Manchester United, they've narrowed down their list, for now at least, to 2 names: Benjamin Šeško and Ollie Watkins. And Nicolas Jackson, not currently on the radar because the cost is too high. Could that change? Unlikely at the moment. Only scenario where it might is if Chelsea come calling for Alejandro Garnacho and Manchester United don't succeed with Šeško or Watkins. But for now, there's 2 names. And they're very different, which I think is fascinating, because the direction they go in is going to show you a lot about this Manchester United project. If they go for Watkins, it will very much be because Ruben Amorim says, let's paper over the cracks in the next 2-3 years. Let's buy an older player, proven Premier League quality, and that ties in with Mbeumo and Cunha. If they go down the line of Šeško, it's a player that they tried for a year ago. He can give you 6 or 7 seasons for potentially, this is assuming both clubs are going to sell, a similar fee. But that's a project player. And that is driven by Christopher Vivell, effectively the number 2 to Jason Wilcox. I'm told at the moment that there is debate within Manchester United. They're not aligned, which is healthy, because you want to sort of argue it out before you place a bid. With Šeško, they've got to get moving because Newcastle are pushing. And I think there's a fair chance that Christopher Vivell wins this battle and Manchester United push and enter the race also for Benjamin Šeško. With Watkins, it's a little bit like Isak and Liverpool waiting. The only way you're going to get Watkins done is if 2 things happen. Number 1, the price drops because Manchester United will not do that deal at 60 million. And number 2, Aston Villa would have to find a replacement. And then we'll see if their not for sale stance changes and softens, and with it, the price drops. And that's where we're at the moment. So keep an eye on Manchester United and number 9, because it is expected to move in the coming weeks. If the window shuts and they don't have a number 9, that will be seen internally within Manchester United as a big failure.
Man, Ben, that was very, very well detailed. And I want to say to anybody watching or listening, this is Market Madness from GiveMeSport. And in just a moment, we will be welcoming broadcaster Melissa Reddy to the show. But for now, there's some breaking news.
There is indeed, and it's another striker and a Newcastle target in Yoane Wissa, who has threatened to never play for Brentford again. This was an exclusive that I broke a few days ago, but I can now add a little bit of detail. So Wissa departed Portugal. He held talks with Brentford's hierarchy, and he is now training alone. So he's not with the team. He's not ready to actually play in friendlies. There's no match fitness. He's just keeping up personal fitness as he pushes for a move. And I can now reveal some detail around last year. When Ivan Toney went to Al Ahly, Wissa spoke to Brentford, and sources close to the player say there was a verbal pact allowing him to leave, for 30 million euros for Premier League or European clubs and 40 million euros for Saudi clubs, specific to this summer. Then December hit, and new signing Igor Thiago got a knee injury. And again, Wissa reiterated his commitment because he had offers, including Neom FC, saying to Wissa, we want to pre-agree something if we can with you in terms of terms and get you this summer. And that's backed up by the fact that Neom FC came back for Wissa only a few weeks ago. But Wissa wants Newcastle or Spurs if they enter the race because he wants to play Champions League football. And Wissa's perspective, and it's quite tense at the moment, is that at 29, this is last chance to play Champions League football. And that's why he wants to go now. Now, Newcastle bid £25 million. It was rejected out of hand. They then followed up a few days ago and bid 30 plus 5. That was a verbal offer. And Brentford told them it's 50 million or the door is shut. Some sources still think this deal could happen later in the window for about £40 million. So Wissa is waiting for Newcastle or another suitor with Champions League football. Nottingham Forest have also had a bid of 20 million rejected earlier in the window. They've got European, but not Champions League football. So a Wissa Brentford exit, it still could happen, but it may come a little bit later in the window.
Thank you very much for that, Ben. That was absolutely brilliant. Now, well, we've just been talking about Isak, and one of the clubs rumored to be in with him for him is actually Liverpool. So right now, we're very happy to welcome broadcaster, writer, podcaster, a Liverpool fan, Melissa Reddy, to the show. Melissa, are you okay?
I'm all good. How are you guys?
Great to see you, Melissa.
Right. It's great to see you. I'm sure you're excited for the start of the season.
I am absolutely buzzing because there's so many moving parts still to happen. Huge deals, but also clubs, I think, still quite unsure of how all the pieces are going to fall. Particularly, you guys have just been speaking about Manchester United and what they'd be able to do. You talking about Isak, what will happen there. And I think what we've seen pretty clearly is there's a huge difference between a not for sale stance and not for sale unless the circumstances align, which usually means the fee, but also being able to get a replacement in.
Yeah, and I think that sort of not for sale, Melissa, now versus not for sale in the future is fascinating, because when someone comes out publicly, as with Alexander Isak, Darren Eales, the outgoing CEO, did this a few weeks ago and said, why would we sell our best players? Many Newcastle fans thought the door was shut, but clearly it could be open to that Liverpool move. What is your understanding of the latest on Alexander Isak, and how likely do you think a move to Liverpool is?
Well, I think given the situation at present where he isn't on tour with Newcastle, and I'm told from his end, it was made very clear to the club that last season would be his final one with them. That was communicated. He has wanted a fresh challenge. Liverpool's seriousness in their interest, I mean, that is told by them willing to pay a British record fee for him. And the thing with Isak is this is not Liverpool just looking at the market and trying to see where there's an opportunity to improve. He is the one that got away for Liverpool's recruitment team. They have been fans of his from 2021. In the summer of 2022, he was the recruitment team's top pick. They pushed heavily for him. They felt, actually, at the time I was told, as strong as they did about Roberto Firmino and Mohamed Salah and how they would transition to the Premier League, that they felt Isak was in a similar mold, that his numbers were still quite scalable. There was so much room for improvement, and that the characteristics of the team would really bring out his strengths. Now, obviously, the coaching staff, Jurgen Klopp in particular, preferred Darwin Núñez in that summer. But Liverpool's admiration and appreciation has only grown because obviously he's demonstrated all the things they believed to be true by virtue of how well he's played for Newcastle. And I think when the way Liverpool are looking at things is they're operating from a position of strength right now. And you can see in their immediate term, lots of things that they're trying to do, i.e. reduce the pressure on Mohamed Salah, but they're also looking longer term, 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line. And for them, I think Isak very much fills both, whereas he improves the team right now, but they can build around him for the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Let's say the door opens, and that may be contingent upon Liverpool finding either a replacement or two. What is your sense here financially? Because even if Newcastle say Isak is suddenly for sale, Liverpool will still want to do this deal only at value, because they could always return in 12 months' time. Do you think if the door is open to a sale, this is 120, 130 or 150 type deal?
I think there would have to be a compromise between Newcastle's valuation, where they're looking closer to £150 million. We know Liverpool were comfortable with parting with £120 million for him. So there would be a meeting in the middle there. What I would say from Liverpool's perspective is they feel like they're in a very healthy position. If you look at the outgoings so far, they've raised just shy of £100 million in terms of profit of the players they've sold. And there's still Darwin Núñez as well, who could move on there. They could fetch a really, really decent fee for Harvey Elliott. So Liverpool are thinking they've got wiggle room financially. Also, in terms of the wages they've saved from the outgoing players, it's not as much as the outlay they'd need for wages on the incoming players. So Liverpool would room to maneuver there. And like I say, the strength of their interest is already told by the fact that they have gone and said, we will make a £120 million bid if you're obliged to sell. And given the outlay they've already spent, I think that is really testament to what Liverpool are trying to build, but how much they value the player. In saying that, I think the complication arises for Newcastle in the fact that while they would love that money, and obviously, listen, no team wants to lose their best player, but all teams have to be sort of conscious of their situation, not just in terms of PSR, but in terms of the food chain and the fact that it was communicated to them. Now, because Newcastle don't have a sporting director, they've got an outgoing chief executive. There's no real sort of rhyme or reason in terms of a transfer approach this summer. So for them, the safest thing might just be to hold on to what they've got. Now, we've seen clubs do that in the past, keep a player for the summer. Liverpool did that with Phil Coutinho, even though he wanted to leave, for example, let them go in the winter window. Now, there's a whole baggage of things for Newcastle to wade through there. The player's clearly unhappy. He's clearly showing he wants to leave. I don't think he's the type to permanently down tools. I think they would be able to reintegrate him. But at what cost? And can you really, in the financial position they're in, turn down a British record fee for Isak?
Let's say it gets done. You would assume that Liverpool as planners always knew there might be this window of opportunity. And therefore, in signing Hugo Ekitike, they're not surprised by the market opportunity of Alexander Isak. They will have factored this in to their ideal football plan. So how should he join Isak and Ekitike coexist? Is Ekitike going to be pushed wide left with Luis Diaz departing, or do Liverpool move to 4-4-2, or is it simply competition between two number 9s?
I actually think Ekitike, when you look at his profile and his strengths, he very much fits what Arne Slot wants from his wingers, and he seems perfect to replace Luis Diaz, especially when you consider Liverpool's want of playing a one-on-one dribbler there with the acceleration to cut inside the full back. When you look at Ekitike's game and where he thrives the most, those are the attributes that would be suited to that left flank. I also think Liverpool are looking for a more dynamic, fluid team. You can see in all the signings thus far, Slot's empowered to play about 4 or 5 different formations, with none of the players really feeling uncomfortable out of their depth. there's also been this huge need to reduce the attacking burden on Salah, but at the same time, actually creating more space around him, empowering him with also more speed around him for Marcus to be occupied with. So I think it was always the plan for Liverpool to have both of them together in an ideal world. Obviously, they would have known as well getting Isak is no guarantee. But like you say, Liverpool knew there would be this market opportunity for him because he'd made it clear to Newcastle that he wanted last season to be his final one at the club.
Now, Melissa, there's been a lot of chat about Konate potentially leaving Liverpool at some point. Will Liverpool sign a new defender this transfer window?
That is the major blind spot in this Liverpool team, in the heart of defense. Obviously, you've got the outgoing of Kwanzaa, you've got Joe Gomez's injury issues, you've got Virgil van Dijk, who is exceptional but getting on. And like you say, the question mark over Konate, because there's been this talk of a new contract. He wants more responsibility. He wants his status to be shown in the kind of offer he receives. PSG have been knocking around for a bit. Real Madrid like the look of him. But when you look at Liverpool's squad depth everywhere else, you're thinking, especially when it comes to the creative and offensive areas, you're thinking they're playing fantasy football at the moment with the squad they're building. But there is real cause for concern in the heart of defense. And Liverpool are all too familiar with having an injury crisis that leaves them having to field midfielders there. And the club have been speaking about, Endo can deputize and Ryan Gravenberch can, but they know what it's like to be in that situation. And I think having done all this hard work in this window, they don't want to go into the season with having their biggest issue still unresolved.
If you guys get Gay, in my opinion, that would be a great replacement. So I know there's been whispers of that as well, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully you can be there to update us. We're only 16 days away from the start of the next Premier League season, and you'll face Crystal Palace before that in the Community Shield. Do you see a fast start for Liverpool?
Yeah, I do think so. I think Liverpool will start as they mean to go on. What we saw from Slot is he tried to change that chaotic approach to a much more controlled one, but it was controlled with efficiency, effectiveness, and still aggression. And with all the signings that Liverpool have made, when you look at the age profile, but also the stylistic profiles of all of them, as I mentioned, it speaks to a team that's going to be a lot more fluid, but also a lot more rapid, with so many avenues to hurt you. And you look at Wirtz, for example, his playmaking ability. Then you've got Ekitike and his dribbling ability, that ball progression. And it's so exciting to think about what this team can be, especially when you've seen how Slot can already evolve a team that's really good. And also, I think Liverpool this season, they've got extra fuel that is so hard to kind of explain, an emotional driver for them in terms of wanting to do Diogo Jota proud. And I think they'll carry that with them through the season as well, beyond their obvious footballing excellence.
I have to ask Melissa, final question, top four in order. What are you saying?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a tricky one because I think there's still a lot of big business to be done, but I would expect, usually I always start this by saying I expect Manchester City to be crowned champions, just by virtue of their manager, what they've built over a number of years and their resources versus everyone else. However, I do think Liverpool will be quite confident in defending their crown. So let's go Liverpool, Manchester City, Chelsea. Who's the fourth one?
You got to say Arsenal because Joel's on this call.
Arsenal. Oh my goodness, yes, Arsenal. See, Arsenal have been a little bit too quiet for my liking, so just casually forgot about them. There, sorry, Mikkel. I actually am a huge Arsenal fan, and I like the processes they've put in place. So yeah, definitely Arsenal.
It was going so well, Melissa. It was going so well.
I'm trying to do this while also keeping a, what is he now, 9-week-old puppy from up and crying. He wants to be involved. He's also excited about transfers.
I think we might need to see the puppy.
Cody.
He's called Cody after Cody Gakpo.
No, he's not named after Gakpo. Say hi, Cody.
Oh, that's a beautiful dog.
Hello.
There we go. Oh, incredible.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Same kind of hair as well.
You know what? Everybody keeps saying, how did you get a dog that looks like you? And I'm like, I wish I looked. This dog is gorgeous. I wish I looked like my dog, but I think it's just the hair color.
Well, I have to say, Melissa, thank you so much for coming on. Can you please let the people watching know where they can find you?
You can find me in all the usual places. I know I've been quite quiet on X and stuff recently, but I've been using my first opportunity in 18 years to actually have a summer where I'm not on a preseason tour or doing a tournament or, having to hectically report on transfers. It's been quite nice. I am in the process of writing 2 books at present, and there's a lot more exciting things to come. So just stay tuned. And listen, I've said I took the time to enjoy my summer off, but I've decided to give myself the workload of getting a new puppy, which there is very little sleep going on and very little me time because he is absolutely attached.
Try having kids. Anyway, Melissa, thank you very much for joining us. And they're just running around in the background. They've done all right, but they're like making faces and stuff like that. It's really off-putting, but yeah, we'll get through it.
This is reality. People want messy. They don't want perfection and stuff anymore. So here it is.
They're sticking their tongue out. Anyway, I think we've got some breaking news coming from Ben Jacobs. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks to Melissa, one of the best in the business. Just a little bit of breaking news, and it concerns Fulham. We know that they are finalising a deal for Reiss Nelson, which probably rules out a move for Raheem Sterling, despite an inquiry on the player side. But keep an eye on left back for Fulham too. And that's because my understanding is that Al Nassr are considering a bid for Anthony Robinson. It's not clear yet whether the player is open to Saudi Arabia. And of course, should he stay, Fulham will be content and they can put their budget into other positions. But internally at Fulham, they're well aware they might need to strengthen at left back. And Alexander Zinchenko at Arsenal is one possibility. And they have made initial outreach to just understand whether or not Arsenal will sell and at what kind of price. My understanding is Arsenal are looking for around £15 million. Fulham values Zinchenko at closer to 10. We're not at an advanced stage. We're certainly not at a point where a bid is likely to arrive yet. And once again, a lot may depend specifically on Anthony Robinson. If he stays at the football club, he's the starting left back. And I think Zinchenko wants to go somewhere, if he is to leave Arsenal, where he's going to get regular game time. Fulham also made some exploratory contact on the player side in early June. And they were told in an ideal world, Zinchenko wants to stay in London. So if this develops, the player negotiations are expected to be reasonably smooth because Zinchenko quite likes the idea of being able to stay pretty much where he is. So this may be contingent on the future of Robinson, but keep an eye on Fulham and Alexander Zinchenko because they have made an initial approach.
Thank you very much, Ben. Hopefully Fulham do what they need to do. Okay, so at the start of the show, I asked you, Mr. Ben Jacobs, the man in the know, where will Harry Kane move to this summer?
Nowhere, I think, is the short answer, to be perfectly honest with you. I think we're going to see a bunch of other strikers, but it's a World Cup year. And I think Kane is really clear that he's happy at Bayern. He's on fire at Bayern. He wants to stay at Bayern. The reason why there's speculation is because there is this variable and diminishing release clause season on season, allowing Kane the possibility to go somewhere if that is triggered. But my knowledge at the moment is that if somebody made an approach for Harry Kane, he would roadblock it now. After the World Cup, it could be a different story. So do keep an eye on various suitors that are aware after the 2026 World Cup, Kane could move. Now, I think there's pretty much no chance that Kane would even consider leaving Bayern Munich. Could it be a return to Tottenham Hotspur? I think it possible, but not something the parties are discussing at this point. Tottenham kind of have the ability to enact matching rights anyway. So if somebody makes a bid for Kane outside of the release clause, they can enter the conversation if they wish. Kane and Saudi is one to watch as well. Al Qadsiya in particular, they've just signed Retegui, the young striker that's replaced Aubameyang. Next summer, they're hoping to add one more. So Kane and Saudi, and Kane and MLS too. And I'm told that if Kane doesn't return to the Premier League, which is a distinct possibility, even though we don't know a clear picture of what kind of suitors at this point, but I think Kane would feel he can still play after the World Cup in a Big Five league. But eventually in his career, I'm told he's more inclined to go to MLS over Saudi Arabia. So there will be MLS clubs that are aware of this variable and diminishing release clause. But at the moment, it's all quiet on the Kane front. And I have a feeling that anybody, should they try now instead of in 12 months' time, will have the possibility of signing Kane shut down, regardless of whether or not they're prepared to trigger the release clause, because Kane doesn't want to move now. Kane doesn't want to go late in the window. And most importantly, Kane is really happy and in form at Bayern Munich. For him to even consider a move away, therefore, would be deemed to be counterproductive to his development, to the fact that Bayern can win things. And also, it can be a bit risky making a move a year out from a World Cup. So I'm almost 100% certain there will be nothing in Kane rumours this summer, but let's revisit it in 12 months' time.
Wow, we'll keep our eyes open for that potential move for sure. For everybody watching, this is Market Madness from GiveMeSport, and it sounds like there's even more breaking news landing. Oh my gosh, Ben, you are on fire. Talk to me.
Just a line on West Ham United. My understanding is West Ham United are now open to offers for Lucas Paqueta and hoping that suitors come forwards. Now, we believe, according to GMS sources, he's been cleared over allegations of spot fixing by the FA. That's pending FA confirmation, but GMS sources tell us that Paqueta is in the clear. Flamengo in Brazil are one of the clubs to have already inquired, and Paqueta is open to making a move to Brazil. There is Saudi interest, I'm told, from Al Ahly. Al Ahly released an incredible statement just a couple of days ago where they said publicly in English and Arabic, we are targeting 6 to 8 players. And there's only 5 weeks of the window left. So they're going to be busy. Not all of those signings are going to come from the foreign market, though. Paqueta, Yves Bissouma, Bilal Al-Khanous and Wilfred Ndidi, 4 names all discussed in and around the centre of the park. And what I can tell you as well is that Graham Potter wants a midfield clear out. Some of the names at the club were brought in by Tim Steden, who's now left. And Potter is looking for a different kind of midfielder. So Edson Alvarez and Guido Rodriguez both have question marks over their head at the moment. There's possibility each could be sold. And this is why West Ham are exploring several midfielders of their own. Bilal Al-Khanous, who I mentioned for Al Ahly, is another name they've considered. Fabio Vieira, as I revealed on GMS a few days ago, another name at Arsenal. And Kiernan Dewsbury Hall as well. West Ham have made an inquiry for the Chelsea midfielder. So keep an eye on West Ham United. There may be multiple midfielders leaving, but several coming through the door as well.
Man, you have been on fire today, Mr. Jacobs. Honestly, how does it feel when you got that breaking news that just rocks up for you?
Well, I think Tom Bogert and me can speak about this because we broke Thomas Muller to Vancouver Whitecaps yesterday, another exclusive on GMS. There's a balance between pushing for your information with sources when you know deals are live and respecting your sources if potentially they're in the room. And it always helps, I think, as a journalist to be armed with information. So if you can go to a source and you can say, I've got something from elsewhere, I find that then you can have a willingness from all sides to start speaking because they respect the accuracy of the information and maybe they feel that they can add to the story. Whereas if you go in blind saying, are you one of the clubs interested? I think you're less likely to get the information. And then you have to work collaboratively and quickly. So me and Tom were bouncing off each other to get this story on GMS. There's a bit of nervousness when you get breaking news because you may be in a position to run it, but you're waiting for all sides and you obviously have to double or triple source things. And there's always a danger that you get out scooped. It happens sometimes where half an hour before you run something, just as you're working on it and writing it, somebody else breaks it. So all kinds of emotions go through your head when you get a little bit of breaking news. But the most important thing is to try and be right, not first. And if you can be right and first, bonus, but don't be first and wrong.
Don't be first and wrong. That's true, especially when you've got a tag that says the man in the know, you know?
Yeah, you will, by the way, though, always get things right at the time, but then changing very quickly. Like I ran a story a few years ago where Jordan Henderson was likely to stay at Liverpool because he'd rejected 3 Al Ittifaq offers and he'd had a meeting directly with Jurgen Klopp and the whole hierarchy at FSG straight after training, shaking hands, laughing, I'm staying. He went home, he rejected Al Ittifaq formally, job done. And then 8 hours later, they doubled the offer, which was their 4th offer. And Henderson went, hang on a minute, this money's just so crazy, I'm going to go. So occasionally that happens. The market can be unreliable, but generally speaking, you want to be in a position where you get that breaking news out there, but you stick to your process. Because if you skip your process to be quicker and less sure, then there's always a danger that your information proves to be wrong or something changes. So it is a balancing act.
For sure, for sure. Right now, I'm actually very happy and pleased to welcome our GiveMeSport colleague at the MLS, Mr. Tom Bogert, who's joining us right now. Tom, how are you?
Good morning. I'm pretty good, except I would say to Ben, like, I'm just going to get things wrong all the time. I don't, this whole be right stuff, you just throw enough crap at the wall and, sometimes it sticks. I'm kidding, of course.
And then you just go, aha, you see, I told you.
This man has never got anything wrong. So if that's his process, then he's a genius.
You guys are really like bros, Every time you come on the banner, you elevate Ben to like. I'm still trying to get that kind of personality out of him. But thank you so much for joining us, Tom. We're going to do this in 2 parts. So firstly, we're going to talk MLS with you. And then yourself and Ben are going to go head to head in a mailbag challenge. So firstly, talk to us about 2 of the biggest rumors about players who may go to the MLS. You got Thomas Muller and Heung-min Son. They're linked. What's going on? Is it happening? Is it true? Let us know, the man in the know.
I'll start with Muller, and I'll preface this that Ben and I have broken both of these stories. First of which, we reported on Muller. That's happening. That's all but done. Just contracts and stuff need to be signed. The last hurdle was Vancouver getting his discovery rights. It's a mechanism in MLS that essentially just means priority to sign the player. They did that yesterday. The deal was already pretty much all agreed with Thomas Muller. They just had to go through the final formalities and the final details and final approvals. And that is all set. He will be playing for the Vancouver Whitecaps. That contract starts on August 1st. He, in MLS parlance, he will not be a designated player this year, but he will be next year. And that was something that was important to him because FC Cincinnati were the other team that came close to signing him, but he wasn't going to do this move without getting that DP deal. And since he weren't willing to offer him, so that's kind of why this saga drug out a little bit longer. But Thomas Muller will be going to the Vancouver Whitecaps. And on Son Heung-min, that's more fluid, right? Like I'm talking about Muller as if it's a formality because that's where it stands. Son isn't quite that far along, but LAFC are making a really strong push. Talks are advancing. Nothing will be decided until at least next week because Son and Spurs play in a friendly in Korea, something that Son wants to do, something that the team are contractually obliged to have him there or they lose a lot of money. So there is no rush, I think, on that front. And then there'll be talks with Son and Spurs about game time, and if he wants to go, Spurs won't stand in his way. And LAFC are making a big push. And for those who don't know, in Los Angeles, I believe that's the highest population of Koreans outside of Korea, if not like the same thing with Irish Americans, like Korean Americans. Los Angeles, it's a huge thing. This would be a huge deal in that market, not even taking away for how great of a player he is and how great of a fit he'd be and show-stopping in this league. Like, particularly in that city with that team, it'd be an awesome fit.
I think you're absolutely right, Tom. And that was sort of my follow-up on both of these deals, one done, one perspective. How important is it in a World Cup year to have these kind of flagship poster boy players? And specifically on Muller, how significant is it for MLS growth that this isn't an LA signing, a New York signing? This is a player going to Canada.
Oh, it's a really interesting point that you bring up, Ben, because that was kind of like, as we were reporting this out, I had a lot of sources telling me like, what? Like he's going to Vancouver? Like they never do this. What are you talking? Like the ownership just put the team up for sale in January. What do you mean? Like this team doesn't make a signing like that. And oh, by the way, they play on turf. Like he's really going to, like, people were like, is this really true? And yeah, it is. Vancouver made a strong push. They made their project attractive. Their playing style is really attractive, and I think that's part of the reason why. But Vancouver's a beautiful city, and the people who don't know this, like, I'm glad that Thomas Muller saw it. Like, Thomas Muller's ready to go to Cincinnati, and again, I like these cities. Like, but nobody in Bayern is going to be like dreaming of taking a Cincinnati vacation. Rather, they would say Miami, LA, New York. So no, that is a good point, and it just goes to show that the more and more that the league grows and these team grows and the qualities and everything else, that like there will still be players that prefer to go to Miami, New York, and LA, the same way that players prefer to go to London or Barcelona or Monaco, right? But the strength of the league and the strength of these clubs, like it's becoming like, oh, like cool. Miguel Marone, when he first went to Atlanta, he didn't know where Atlanta was. He couldn't pick it out on a map. He didn't know what airport to go to. He said Tata Martino was the manager at the time. He said, Tata, you tell me where to fly. I'm there. The more and more that stuff happens, he falls in love with the city. Joseph Martinez falls in love with the city. So the more and more that happens, the more broader the appeal can be, and that the league feels deeper than just, 3 cities to these global superstars.
And what's been your perspective, Tom, of this summer? We're heading into a World Cup year, which should give MLS clubs a bit of an advantage. They want to be ambitious. You can tie into the buzz and maybe get names that think it's the right place to be 12 months out from a major tournament. We've seen Rodrigo de Paul go to Inter Miami. We've mentioned Muller and Son as well. We had the so-called exceptional window, but that was only for the Club World Cup entrance from MLS. Has this summer felt different through a combination of Club World Cup, money therefore to other teams, coupled with the fact that we're only 12 months away from the World Cup? Have we seen more ambition? Are you noticing a difference within the MLS market?
First, on that exceptional window, there was one player signed by the 3 Club World Cup teams in MLS, and that player was on loan for, I think, 5.5 weeks. So MLS clubs, they made a big stink about this, about whether it's fair or not fair from the other 27 clubs, and one player was signed. So that was funny. But in terms of ambition, in terms of this summer, for me, it's not totally different. Honestly, like it's a continuation. Like, yes, like the idea of Muller and Rodrigo de Paul and hopefully Son later this window. But last year, LAFC were trying to sign Antoine Griezmann. In the past, this is when, again, Lorenzo Insigne didn't work out. But at the time, Lorenzo Insigne was a huge signing. There's Hector Herrera came to Houston, and this isn't abnormal, but it is something that needs to continue to build and is continuing to build.
I have to say thank you very much for coming on, Tom, and giving us the info. But you know what? We're going to move it on to the mailbag challenge right about now, because the audience is going, what's going on? So we've been taking questions from for both the listeners, etc. And like I said, we're going to finish the mailbag challenge, and we're going to have you, Tom, doing MLS questions and Ben based on European football. But Tom, as the guest, you're going to go first, and your 90 seconds is going to start after I finish reading the first question. So you have to tell me and the audience, right, what you can do. Do you reckon you're going to be good?
I lost the first one, and I'm looking to make amends.
Come on, geez, man. You got to come on and give us the energy. We're going to try that again. Tom, how are you going to do
that? That was a quiet confidence.
Yeah, they're quite
that was
complex.
revenge.
Revenge. Okay, cool.
He got screwed as well on the last one because he was asked technical things like explain TAM.
Or no, there was that, and then like there was a couple. It's like, hey, do you know where Ugo Ekitike is going? And I was like, I don't know.
Anyway, listen, we're gonna get started. Are we ready, producer Finn? I'm gonna start asking the questions. Get that timer ready. First question: is Matt Turner's Lyon move off?
It's really complicated. This is a tough one to answer quickly. Lyon and Nottingham Forest are still going back and forth about it right now, and New England Revolution are trying to sign Matt Turner. But one of the complications is, who is the loan from? Which club is paying most of his salary? It looks like Lyon are not going to be able to get out of it. I don't know that for sure. I'm still working on that, but New England are trying to sign him. Lyon don't want him. It's a really bad situation for the player.
Why was Messi suspended?
There's a rule in MLS, if you skip the All-Star game without an injury, you're suspended for 1 game, because if they didn't have this rule in place, people like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Wayne Rooney, Thierry Henry, Lionel Messi, they would never, ever, ever play in this game.
Will Portland Timbers sell Santi Moreno?
Doubtful. Fluminense offer was $4 million. That is nowhere near enough. Portland wanted to keep their core players and add to them at the end of the season here. They don't want to sell. If a crazy big offer came in and the player pushed more, then they would readjust. But right now, that doesn't seem like that big bid is coming.
Will San Diego FC sell Luca Bombino?
Not this summer. They're insistent to keep him as well. He's starting every single game, and they believe that the offer from West Brom, while they appreciate it, is not close to his value, and his value is only going to keep on going up. And their sell to the player is, hey, if you keep playing like this, teams from Big Five leagues will come in for you.
Explain the designated player rule.
Every team in MLS they can spend whatever they want on 3 players that don't impact the salary cap in the same way as others. So you can give Messi $20 million, and he hits the cap at $650,000.
That counts, because that question was horrible. That counts.
Yeah, I was like, that is a horrible question. Hopefully there's a similar one for Ben on his, because that is really horrible. So,
Explain financial fair play.
Okay, cool. So would you like me to let you know how much you got now, or do you want me to let you know both at the end?
At the end, so Ben's not counting.
All
yeah,
right,
I don't
cool.
want to have like a number in mind. Otherwise, I'll
Yeah.
panic to try and surpass it.
That's absolutely fine. Ben, are you ready for your set of questions? I want to hear
I'm ready,
some-
yeah. By the way, Tom, if your dog is around, make sure that dog gets in vision at some point, because Melissa Reddy showed us a beautiful, beautiful dog. So we might have to show off our dogs before we end the show. But yeah,
He's
I'm ready.
nowhere near.
Oh, he's got it on a mug.
Always with me.
Did you spill that?
A little bit.
Yeah. All right. So, Ben, your 90 seconds starts after I read out the first question. Let's get going. How realistic is an Isak Jackson swap deal between Chelsea and Newcastle?
Totally unrealistic. It was spoken about 12 months ago, but Chelsea are not in for Alexander Isak. Nicolas Jackson could depart, but I don't think we're going to see a swap deal, even though Newcastle have Jackson as one of their possible names, but their focus at the moment is on Benjamin Šeško and possibly Yoane Wissa.
What's the latest on Jadon Sancho to Juventus?
Jadon Sancho and Juventus is ongoing. The talks are actually quite advanced. It all depends on Sancho. He has to drop his wage. Manchester United have lowered the price, no longer 25 million pounds, closer to 17 million. That's a good deal for Juve, but they've got to be able to afford Sancho's wage.
Where will Mark Gay play next season?
Could stay at Crystal Palace, but he's not going to sign a new deal. Strange situation where Liverpool could bid, but the price is going to have to drop significantly south of 45 million. World Cup year, though. Gay wants to play every week. Palace prepared to sell. Liverpool might bid, but Gay, he may put a roadblock on it all and say, I'm just going to stay.
Will James McAtee leave City?
Possibly. There was a rejected bid, 25 million from Nottingham Forest. City want closer to 40 million. Forest may be back with a second bid.
Is Fabio Vieira going to West Ham?
A target, but it's not concrete at the moment. No advanced talks, but he's on the list. As I said in the breaking news a moment ago, West Ham are looking to add several midfielders.
What's the latest on Xavi Simons?
Chelsea are about to bid. They're quite confident on this one. It might cost around 70 million euros, but for now they're trying to get Jorel Hato over the line first, and that deal could be finalised within 48 hours.
Ooh.
Got it.
I mean, you
Depends
did-
if that last one counts. It was either 5 or
counts.
6.
That counts. 6 by my count.
Look how humble he is. He's like
Oh,
gifting it to me.
You know what?
Ugh.
All right, cool. So, Tom,
I'll see you in a media game, Ben.
yeah,
Wear shin guards.
Tom, I have to say, from your section of questions, you've got a solid 5 right. which included a very, very tricky question in there about rules. I don't know why the producer put that. That was slanted. You did very well.
The Matt Turner one is timely, except that is a legal battle between two clubs and a third club that wants him. So that one was
he almost should get double points for that.
No.
You guys are just this is the bromance I'm talking about. This is it. Ben, you did well and you answered 6 questions within that time. So it looks like Mr. Ben Jacobs is the winner. Congratulations. And I'll tell you what, I really like that because it's a fun, challenging game and you get the information you need. So thank you very much for joining. All I can say, that's what we've got time for today. There's obviously a lot going on. So Tom, can you please let everybody know where they can find you as well?
Yeah, GiveMeSport. That's where I'm breaking all the news on Twitter, X, all the socials at Tom Bogert, Instagram at Tom_Bogert. I can say that. Yeah, that's about it. Joel, you're the man. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. And Ben, can you please let everybody know where they can find you?
Same on Tom's feed as he breaks stories and tags me. My feed at Jacobs Ben, and of course across the GiveMeSport network where I'm a senior football correspondent. Keep an eye out on all the news, the Fabrizio newsletter as well. And we'll be back next week.
For sure. And myself, you can find me on Market Madness on GiveMeSport and of course Joel Beya on Instagram and YouTube. Thank you everybody for watching. This is Market Madness on GiveMeSport. Peace.